Hello National University CSET students covering your world history, U.S. history, economics, civics, and California history information, and AP U.S. history students who may also want to use this as a resource. Right now what I'm going to discuss is the Spanish-American War. Alex and I were just going over the topic online, and I posted some links that you can use to review the Spanish-American War, the early American imperialism. And I was just speaking with my AP U.S. history students about this idea of manifest destiny. Actually, it was going back to the earlier colonial days and the connection to Calvinism and Puritanism and American exceptionalism. This idea that when we sing the words from sea to shining sea, there's this idea of a given destiny that from coast to coast the United States was going to expand, and it was God's providential gift to the colonies. What was going on at this time in the late 1890s, or in the 1890s, was you had this manifest destiny was this concept was still working its way in the form of American imperialism, and you had Roosevelt, who was a part of this international Darwinism movement, not necessarily as an active member, but kind of as a contributor to the philosophical ideas of it. He was a dedicated racist his entire life. He's a man that I admire in many ways, and with the exception of the fact that he so doggedly held on to his racist views. He was courageous in some ways in inviting some African Americans to the White House, and he got criticism for that. But really, he died racist. So while he's a pretty interesting president to study, he's pretty disappointing on that subject of racism. As far as manifest destiny goes, and imperialism and Spanish-American War, Hearst is publishing papers at this time, Yellow Journalism, and in it he's talking about how Spain can't govern and kind of stoking the war. McKinley is not buying into it too much, but by 1890 Spain retained only Cuba and Puerto Rico, having lost much of its once vast empire in the New World, and rebels had challenged Spanish rule in Cuba. There was a 10 years war that was probably the most prolonged conflict, and so there was already a prologue to this this discord, and the Depression of 1893 damaged Cuba even further. The Cuban economy was suffering. This made it conflicts with the people in Spain all the more heightened. And then the Depression, the Wilson-Gorman Tariff of 1894 made the situation worse. And then the Cuban insurgents established a junta in New York City to raise money. So here they are carrying on their business in New York to buy weapons and wage a propaganda war. President McKinley urged neutrality during this time with slight support for the insurgents. Kind of offhand, he didn't want to come out as a direct supporter of any rebel group there, but he did make some overtures and statements. But for the most part, he publicly kept talking about neutrality. McKinley orders the USS Maine into Havana Harbor as things become more tense in Cuba. And then on February 15th, 1898, the Maine explodes. There's an investigation into this explosion, and the Spanish authorities say, well, it's kind of obvious to us that it was an internal malfunction, probably either emanating from a kitchen or from the boiler room. And then of course the Americans, hearing of this in the newspapers, remember Hearst is already priming the pump for this war. He's already stoking the American public for it. They start to chant a slogan, "Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain." So McKinley is seen as weak, and people are starting to criticize him for holding the neutrality position. So the Teller Amendment is pushed through Congress and through the Senate, and the Colorado Senator Henry M. Teller proposes it, and it basically said that Cuba was independent from Spain and that it would not be annexed by the United States. In other words, we'll help you gain your freedom by sending the Rough Riders and our other units over there, and then you will be free from Spain. We will not we will not occupy your nation. As this war becomes a success for the United States and it looks as if they're going to beat Spain, Sherwood Anderson says, and of course, other than Sherwood Anderson, you had Carnegie, you had Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, and others, Jane Addams, very critical of the war with Spain, saying things like, it was inappropriate, it was imperialistic. But Sherwood Anderson says this. He says that the war with Spain was like robbing an old gypsy woman in a vacant lot at night after the fair. So obviously he had a very negative opinion of this war with Spain. 1/4 of the troops were African American, as Alex had pointed out, that African American troops were fighting alongside the white troops going over into Cuba. So we saw as of 1898, an early integration of African American troops. However, in Lakeland, where they're training, and near Tampa in Florida, their segregation is obvious. So when the African American soldiers go out to take part in the local economy, go to stores, get something to eat, what have you, segregation is there, and they feel very angry at that they can fight and die for their country, but they can't get a decent meal without having to be divided. Roosevelt was Assistant Secretary of the Navy at this time. I already mentioned the racism issue there. He's reading at the time a book called Supériorité des Anglo-Saxons. It's a French book, French work, saying that English-speaking people were superior to all other races. So he's carrying this with him as he's fighting alongside, mind you, his Rough Riders, some of whom are Native American Indians, football players, guys from Yale, guys from Stanford, hunters, just a mixed lot, this kind of motley crew of elite soldiers that he gathers together. So the Rough Riders include men from Harvard, Yale, Princeton, prospectors, hunters. So that gives you some background on the Spanish-American War, reasons for it igniting, and the situation with Spain, with the main having exploded. I think I covered everything there. We'll talk more with you about this in the discussion boards, and I look forward to your comments. Please question, analyze, and think about what I'm saying here. If you see any holes in my logic or see anything that I might have missed, please get in there. Please add to what I've said. I do not take these things personally. For me, history is, I'm constantly learning things from my students. So if you see something that I missed, jump in there, let me know. If there's another angle you can approach it from, let me know. Please back up your points of view with specifics from a textbook or an online source. Try to avoid Wikipedia, please. And thank you, and talk to you soon.